Good evening, everyone. You're welcome to the 6 p.m. newscast on Equinoxe television. In our top stories, a fresh accident has occurred in Edeya in the Nyong and Kele division of the central region of the country, involving a heavy-duty truck transporting lots of wood. The truck hit two interurban transport buses, several motorbikes and private vehicles. Enormous material damage recorded. Several persons are reported dead, but the number not confirmed. Several others have been injured. We also talk about a head teacher of government primary school in Kongtok, that is in the Nyong and Kele division of the central region of Cameroon, that has been sacked by the Minister of Basic Education for sexually harassing one of his female colleagues. Those are top stories. Good evening. Once again, you're welcome to the 6 p.m. newscast on Equinoxe television, where we broadcasting live from the nation's economic capital, Douala. We begin with this accident that occurred minutes ago in Edeya in the Nyong and Kele division of the central region of the country. That's a fresh accident that has been recorded on one of our national highways. It involves a heavy-duty truck that was transporting lots of wood. It suffered a brake failure, hitting two interurban transport buses. Enormous material damage has been recorded. The buses as well have been damaged. It should be noted that persons who were occupying front seats of mostly the first bus sustained injuries. Others are saying several persons died, but the number of deaths has not been confirmed. Also, several motorbikes were damaged as a result of that accident, as well as private vehicles. We recall that the heavy-duty truck that was transporting lots of wood suffered a brake failure. He had to hit or end his course on two interurban transport buses that were severely damaged, as you can see in the images there. We remain in the Nyong and Kele division of the central region of the country to talk about a head teacher of government primary school in Kongtok, that is in the Nyong and Kele division of the central region, like I indicated, who has been sacked by the Minister of Basic Education for sexually harassing one of his female colleagues. Also, he is accused of physical violence on the female colleague. The dismissal of Jean Francois is contained in a communique signed by the Minister of Basic Education, Laurent Serge Etundi Ngoa. This decision took effect from the 19th of August 2021. The Secretary General, Inspector General in charge of services, the regional delegates of basic education for the central region have been ordered to ensure strict application of the decision taken by the Minister of Basic Education. On to something else. Construction works along the 74-kilometer road from Sagmelema to Mengum in the south region has been stopped. The inhabitants of Oso Ebenga locality along the stretch of the road say until government compensates them, work will never resume on that particular road. Smanju can give some details.
Bon, on vient de terrer mes ancêtres.
Inhabitants of Oso Obenga are angry after several ancestral tombs were destroyed due to a road which is about to be constructed. The locals are angry because they were not compensated after the destruction caused by the company in charge of the road project from Sangmilima to Mengom in the south region of Cameroon.
Depuis qu'on a commencé cette route,
Since they started work here, I was the 22nd person to be compensated. But till now, I haven't received a dime. 5 payments have already been done, and if you want, I can prove it. I have said I will block the road on Wednesday.
moi je vais fermer la route là. Mercredi, je ferme cette route. Même les maisons qui sont
Persons having invisible homes have been compensated, but those who are present till now have not received a dime.
dans l'emprise de la route.
Even though not too far from Sangmilima, things seems to be moving on smoothly as circulation is fluid. Because of the lack of compensation in some areas, the construction work have stopped.
Oui, j'ai dit le préfet Ngangue est arrivé ici.
The deal was even here, and he gave us details about the amount per person. But curiously, when the decree for compensation was signed and the list came out, our names were missing on it.
Où on est au Cameroun, où on n'est pas au Cameroun. Et voilà, c'est des choses qui amènent des gens à faire la révolte.
The 74 kilometers road from Mengom to Sangmilima is on hold because of issues of compensation.
Several Cameroonians and civil society leaders have condemned the abuse meted on police officials in Cameroon by mostly motorbike riders and drivers. This is coming at the time when a female police officer was knocked down by a driver recently in the Nguso neighborhood, that is in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé. It is coming at a time when a driver as well rushed over another police officer who was controlling traffic still in the nation's political capital. Mala Glory tells us details.
Violence against police officials has been on the rise recently in Cameroon. Social media has been flooded with viral videos of these men in uniforms in conflict with bike riders, taxi drivers and owners of private vehicles. Weeks ago, Cameroonians were served with a disturbing video of a driver running over a policeman with his vehicle when the police officer asked to control his driving license and his identification card.
Oh! Oh! Dans le dossier là.
Yesterday, another incident occurred at Chapelle Ngusu in Yaoundé, where a young female police officer was knocked down by a vehicle while she was controlling traffic jam. This attitude has brought condemnation from the population and some civil society leaders.
Pour ceux qui connaissent la ville de Douala, avec 500 000 motos qui vont à gauche et à droite dans tous les sens.
I am very satisfied with the work done by the police in controlling traffic. For those of you who know Douala, you will bear with me that without these men in uniform, Douala will be a total mess, with bike riders running from left to the right, without respecting road signs. I have noticed a lot of young girls and young boys of the police in the city of Douala doing their work devotedly and with passion. This is an action we should appreciate.
Vous les voyez dévoués. C'est un spectacle plutôt qui fait plaisir. Nous l'avons commenté au sein de la...
Bike riders, on the other hand, are often accused of not respecting road signs and orders from the police, which often leads to a clash.
Mais régulièrement, les benzineurs ont ce problème avec les policiers.
We commercial bike riders are often in the haste. We hate to wait in traffic, and this is why we often get in conflict with the police.
Voilà. Donc ça fait que on dérange un peu les benzineurs sur ce point-là.
While some defense forces are being criticized of their behavior on the field, others are applauded for a job well done.
Ensuring an effective back to school and an end to the Njirum Tumbo crisis in villages in Do subdivision was on the table of discussion of the just ended municipal council session. Despite these challenges, municipal Authorities were applauded for having executed all their projects. Immaculate Fogwe reports.
The Njiron and Tumbok crisis, alongside the Anglophone crisis, are some of the issues preoccupying administrative and municipal authorities of Ndu, Dongamantum division of the Northwest region. The mayor of the Ndu Council, Abdul Kanfon Buno, condemns the destruction of over 50 houses in Boron, with over 20 persons injured.
Continue to educate the youth, especially those who have been misled and who continue to dwell in the bushes, to disarm themselves and be reintegrated into the society through the DDR centers. With regards to the land dispute between Tumbok and Jilong, we condemn the perpetual act of violence and vandalism on both sides and call on the population of the two villages to exercise patience as appropriate government services are handling their matter.
Speaking during a municipal council session, the senior divisional officer for Dungamantum Division, Do Simon Quenti, called on the population of Ndu subdivision to open their doors fully for an effective back to school.
Education remains our priority of priorities, and it is the turn of Ndu to come out completely from slumber. Within the next few days, and the deal will be on the field so that we actually put a finger on functional areas, mobilizing the populations to clean existing schools, especially those that were not functional. Those schools should be cleaned in anticipation.
The senior divisional officer equally applauded the 100% execution rate of council projects such as roads and the construction of a town hall, despite the security challenges in Ndu subdivision. Honorable Bonyo Naomi, Member of Parliament for Ndu constituency, donated a standby generator to the Integrated Health Center of Bibgo village.
Since our village has no light, there's no way we have electricity. So this generator can help in the health center, where patients, even at night, the doctor can attend to them and there will be no problem. So I am handing it over to the management committee.
The senior divisional officer has been urged to create a security post in Ndu in order to ensure relative peace in the area, which has been hit by the over 4-year armed conflict.
While some people and students on holiday are doing petty trades, others in helping their parents in farms in order to prepare for the upcoming academic year. Parents or some other parents have been sending their children to attend holiday classes to enable them become more knowledgeable as they face the 2021-2022 academic year. Charles Sekume visited some of the centers where these children and pupils as well as students are attending holiday classes. He gives us this information.
The holidays is considered a time to rest, especially for pupils and students who had a long and tedious academic year. But for some reasons, some parents prefer that their children consume their holiday period by attending holiday classes in a bid of acquiring more knowledge. Moreover, according to a principal in Douala by name Mopechang Gui Gemanzi, the plaguing coronavirus pandemic has affected the regular school calendar. Thus, in her opinion, holiday classes is primordial.
Last school year, Corona disrupted programs. Many schools went in for 2 shifts, and obviously the programs for the year were not covered. So we found it necessary to organize holiday classes to catch up.
Another teacher by name Chu Cyril further explains why holiday classes is extremely important.
Some of the students here are equally some students who have difficulties in certain areas that they felt they didn't quite understand very well within the past academic year. So in the course of these classes, we were able to pay attention to such students and find a way to upgrade them to the same level with the others. Likewise, there are some students who came from other schools that probably wouldn't have covered what we did here, so we try to bring them on the same pace with our students.
Some kids on their part use their holiday classes time by studying new topics ahead of the following academic year, like this upper 6th science student by name Ayo Shelley Amana.
Today I just ICT and the chemistry class. We wrote a test of ICT and chemistry. So far, we've learned in ICT, we've learned information system, how an information system is being run, and more of practicals like creating a database. Then chemistry, we did organic chemistry, how their reactions, their chemical reactions, and also how they help us in our daily lives.
Contrary to this ideology, some educationists, like G. Bear Esther, believes that holiday classes is the wrong approach, given that the students and pupils deserve rest after a cumbersome academic year.
It's time we begin to think that the children need to rest. That is why they have what we call holidays. They have to rest. They have been in school for 9 months and we need them to rest so that when they come back to school, they are fresh.
All that said, holiday classes have become a new way of life for students, pupils and parents alike who find joy in this activity.
Discover our guest in a jiffy. Good evening once again. You're welcome to Talking Points. We're having as guest today Numbose Innocent. He is communicator of the Popular Action Party. Good evening, Innocent, and welcome.
Good evening to you, Mr. Innocent Azen. Good evening to you, dear televiewers. Good evening to Mr. Fabrice Lena and Jumanu Tamoki Terence. It's a pleasure having me here today to share my thought with Cameroonians.
Well, let's begin by talking about actualities in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé, concerning our police officials who are always abused on the way while on duty, at times controlling traffic. We have two cases, or several cases in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé. I would like us to focus on the recent ones. Just like you watching the report, you saw just a week ago a police officer who demanded the ID cards of a driver. He suffered the abuse. He was run over by a driver in Yaoundé. Asking him to stop, he never stopped. Yesterday, it was a police lady who was as well abused by a driver. I saw her uniform was torn. She finally ended in a hospital in Yaoundé. What do you make of the attitudes of our motorbike riders and drivers in Cameroon today?
Oh, Mr. Innocent, we live in a nation where we are characterized under 3 attributes, which is repression, corruption, and tribalism. So every sector in this nation has almost been politicized, where the people on the streets are trying to survive because our economy has been brought down into a jungle where everyone is trying to survive. So at times, some of this attitude, though we condemn them, no one is above the law. The police is there to maintain peace and order, but we condemn this attitude. But sometimes the people are being pushed to the wall by the actions of the police. At times they are reacting to the actions of the police officer, but we condemned every action against the forces of law and order.
What kind of attitudes do these police officers portray, for example, that will instigate the drivers or bike riders to behave recalcitrant?
We have seen police officers trying to restore money from Cameroonians. We saw a video lastly how a police officer was pressurizing a civilian, telling him, "Don't low whiskey the chief, don't low whiskey the chief." I myself have been a victim of police harassment so many times. So it is a bi-directional something. We condemn such attitude from the both parties.
And just to as well comment on the issues, another issue concerning the several checkpoints mounted. I don't know if you've gone to Bamenda recently, or maybe from 2020 to present. There are checkpoints, and there are a group of military men manning several checkpoints, and they demand money from passengers, those who are leaving other regions moving into the northwest region. Either they pay collectively in the bus to settle the controls in order not to step down to present the ID cards. They pass straight away. They don't do any COVID-19 tests anymore. They pass the toll gate just because it's now become a business. I don't know. How do you analyze that? Is it that they are now exploiting the crisis to make money, or are they protecting the population? Are they protecting the inhabitants against the COVID-19 pandemic?
The situation in the northwest region, Santa to be precise, because that is my place, is pathetic, Mr. Innocent. Santa to Bamenda is a very short distance that used to be 600 francs before the crisis. But now people from Santa pay 1,500 from Santa to Bamenda because of the numerous checkpoints and police harassment on the way. You see, people are living in absolute fear, and they are not only suffering from bad roads, they are suffering from the numerous checkpoints on the way, which has really made life a living hell for the people in Santa. So the government needs to look into this situation. The government who is in place needs to look into this situation. But since we have a government who does not really care about the people, we live in a nation where Cameroon has been reduced into a one-man agenda. The plight of the people is no longer taken care of because the administration in place do not really care about the people.
Because when you find them, there are some videos now circulating of smart passengers who took them. You find the military men counting money, putting them in bags and papers just beside them. That tells you that it has now become some kind of organization, an enterprise. How do you analyze that?
From the beginning of this crisis, the international community, civil organization have been calling on the head of state, Mr. Biya, to call for a sincere dialogue to put an end to this crisis. But we see their reaction. They are not interested in putting the crisis to an end. We see people from both parties who are milking fat from the crisis. They don't want the crisis to come to an end because they are benefiting from the crisis. Look at the situation in which we are. We have a very bad road from Babaju to Bamenda, and almost 1 billion francs is used on daily basis to sustain the senseless war in the southern Cameroon, of which it is estimated in Cameroon that a kilometer of road is started for 100 million francs. Had it been the war that has been for more than 4 years and an estimated budget of 1 billion francs is used to sustain the war on daily basis. Had it been that money was being used to tar the roads from Babaju to Bamenda, it would have been long tarred. But since we are in a regime, we are under a regime that do not care about the people, that is why we are into the situation we find ourselves.
Our roads suffer because of the Anglophone crisis. The Cameroon Development Corporation is equally suffering from the Anglophone crisis. Recently, you heard the managing director of the Cameroon Development Corporation. He stressed that for the CDC to survive, the security situation in the two English-speaking regions of the country must be improved upon. What do you say about that?
Mr. Aze, peace is known as the child of the intercourse between justice and truth. Where there is war, know that there is absence of justice and truth. And anybody who is preaching peace without talking about justice and truth, it is simple, the person is a hypocrite. So, for every Cameroonian who really wants peace to return to the Northwest, he must speak the truth, fight for justice. When the truth is spoken, justice is implemented, then peace will follow. We don't need to fight for peace.
Now, the fact that many people continue to call on the government of Cameroon to solve the Anglophone crisis, to save the economy that is limping, at this point regarding the case of the CDC, there has been a major revenue generating source for the government of Cameroon. The government is doing nothing about it. The government neglects it. Should we say the government rather has turned to borrowing and indebting the country?
As of now, Cameroon is about 10,000 billion indebted to the international community. If you take 10,000 billion and you divide it by 26 million, meaning each Cameroonian is owing the international community about 300 and something thousand. So, with the regime we have in place, is not there for the interests of the people. Now, I think by now the suggestion box in this nation must have been full, because there is no place for suggestions to enter. The problem with our nation is that those who have the ideas have no power, and those who have the power have refused to take the ideas from the people they are governing. That is why we keep on finding ourselves in the mess we are into.
And for the economy to revamp, the government must as well listen to the people, the general manager of the CDC. Before we go, just in some few words, you had something to say about Christian Tenda Ekoka, who is of late was allied to the CRM political party.
Christian Penda Ekoka.
What has it to do with the Popular Action Party?
Christian Penda Ekoka.
Just in some few words, please.
As his name goes, Christian, he was really a true Christian who gave up his life fighting for the people, fighting for the Cameroonian people. I would like to call on other Cameroonians to follow his example, because he was a true patriot who resigned from the injustice system, who tried in his capacity and ability to implement justice into the system, but he had no means because the mechanism of corruption was built and very solid into the system, who he then resigned and tried to bring in justice into the system. So he is truly a patriot. It is not the length of your life that matters, but the quality of how you live your life that matters.
Thank you so very much, Numbuse Innocent, for coming.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you.
I recall that you are communicator of the Popular Action Party. It's been a pleasure having you.
The pleasure is mine.
And to you viewers, it's been a pleasure having you in this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Thanks so much for watching. Do have a splendid evening and nice weekend. See you next week, God willing.